Hi, hello everybody. Starting on time today. I'm really excited about that. I asked my son to feed the dog, but even though she might not complain that she hasn't been fed, she is walking around in my studio. She was laying under my feet and she was laying over there. And so you might see her, you might not. But if you hear any click, 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 that's what it is. So, happy Tuesday to everybody. We are going to be doing some more color studies. I picked up a few more of the Schminke. So for any of you who were there for last live stream or the live stream before that, last live stream we worked on some colors, and then this live stream, we worked on color wheels. And the live stream before that, we unboxed the Schminke paints, and I haven't really used them. I've been still using, sorry for more noise, my dog found the only paper. There's like a paper bag, and she's sniffing it to see if there's any food in it. There's not, but she's hopeful. So I haven't really tested them more, so I'm really excited to be doing this. I was hoping I'd figure out how to put this wheel for you to help to share with you the wheel that I made. So you'll be able to see one on the active live stream. Sorry, that's what it's called. That's what I call it, but you wouldn't know what that is. I'm going to show you like a template of it. It's going to be tiny, but you can kind of copy it if you want to. And then hopefully the next time I use this, I will have some sort of a downloadable PDF linked somehow, some way. For those of you who are watching this later, not live, maybe I'll have it in the description box if I figure out how to do this, which... yeah, I have no idea how, so I don't even know if what I'm telling you is possible. I hope it is. So I'm going to switch over to the overhead cam now. And as you can see right here, I've got the photo of this for you. I know it's kind of tiny, but it's something that you can go off of if you wanted to do this along with me. We're actually going to start on another page swatching first. And I'm going to take 1 second before I get started here to jump over and make sure that this is working. Okay, it says I'm live, so I'm going to assume so. If you are here, I don't have the information about how many people are here, which is too bad. That would be helpful to know, or mostly helpful to know that the stream's working, that everything's set up. So, but it says live, so I'm just gonna assume that it is working based on any knowledge I have. So these are the colors that I swatched in the last. Not the last one, but 2 live streams ago, the first live stream I did this year. And I discovered while I was swatching these that the red was not light fast. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with how watercolors work, they tend to have obviously different qualities to them. So for example, you see this one is kind of grainy, and then these ones over here are kind of more smooth. That's called granulation. And I've noticed a lot of browns have granulation and a lot of blues have granulation, and then it's sometimes a little harder to get granulation in the other colors. I learned a while back that one of the ways that the paints that we have access to are usually whatever's in the industry, usually the car industry or industrial industry. So the pigments being created and manufactured are specific for things that are used in large quantities. A whole car, you're going to paint it that. So you're not going to get any pigments that would be specifically for like a watercolorist, unless the person is somebody who makes their own pigments by going out and finding the rocks in the mica and then grinding itself and then making it. So if, you know, there might be some people who are making other pigments that way, but as far as like what you would find in the store, it's almost always something that's commercially available to people using more paint than artists use. As much paint as I feel like I use. Like I have so much paint and I feel like I've used so much paint. So it's like, it feels so enormous to me, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things compared to other users of paint. So I've already swatched these 3 right here and then what's in here. I wanted to show you guys something. I don't know if I have any other watercolor paints that have done this. It might make a mess. Oh yeah, there's even one right there. It has like flaked off. That is such an odd quality. So this is the cobalt light blue, and then this one is probably the Glacier black. Oh no, it's black on one side and copper on, not copper, teal on the other. That's so odd, because to me, the watercolor would be the same all the way through, but maybe the heavier pigments fell to the bottom and the lighter pigments went to the top. I wouldn't know which one was which. I would have to guess that the darker pigments fell to the bottom because this side's smoother and shinier, and this the let's see if I can bring it up for you. And then the teal side's kind of more warped. Ooh, where's the camera? It's a little more warped. And it looks very shiny to you, but it's not very shiny to me at most angles. So I thought that was super interesting. I've never seen any watercolor paint do that before. A lot of people love Schminkes, but I find this to be problematic because I do travel with my paints a lot, and I wouldn't want to travel with these. Like that's a mess. I mean, I've got plenty of palettes set up for travel that are not Schminke, so that's fine. It could just be used in the studio. But I like to, I used to like, when I first started using watercolor, I did, oh, hi Katie. You can't believe you're here, why not? I'm always so excited when somebody writes in the chat, not just because it's obviously lovely to talk to you guys, but it's also like, oh, whew, the thing's working. I did everything right. Okay, so you can't believe you're here. What time is it in Melbourne? It's Melbourne, right? You would be, I don't remember if you're ahead or behind, or if it even matters, because you guys are so distant from us time-wise that it's almost like irrelevant. Just in like the 24-hour cycle of the moon and stuff. That's how I think about that. Maybe other people don't. So we were talking about the watercolors and the traveling. Yeah. Don't remember what my point was. If I think of it again, I'll let you guys know. These are the 3 that we're going to swatch. And these are these and these. So these are this over here, and these are this over here. Probably not lined up perfectly. Oh, did I line them up perfectly? No. So, yeah, for those of you who weren't here, that's what we were doing. Just a busy day. We're ahead. It's 1 p.m. Yeah, like you're so far ahead that we're not that distant in time because it's 6 p.m. here. So it's like, it's odd that you're so far ahead or we're so far ahead or something like that. Well, I'm glad that you made it. It means a lot to me. So thanks for being here. I haven't enacted your advice that you gave me on the last live stream yet because I have been way too busy to even paint or even think about painting. I'm so glad to be sitting down here and just playing with my paints. It's just like a really therapeutic thing, and I'm so grateful to have this practice to rejuvenate me. And I'm happy that I'm just kind of playing with colors and not trying to think. I'll share with you guys a little bit about what happened this weekend and later on. But I do want to get moving here and painting. Oh no, I need that. I need this thing to be open because it's what I'm going to pour the paints in. And where's my pen? The pen that I used on these is dying. I don't have any. I love to use fine liners I forgot to put my phone on silent. Sorry. I like to use fine liners in my sketchbooks. I don't use them too much in my fine art, but in my sketchbooks, I love using them. And I just haven't really bought any lately. And so all the ones that I have are old and they're only kind of working. So this was like a mess, but this ink I don't think is waterproof, so I definitely didn't want to use it on this because we're going to be painting right on top of it. So even though it wasn't great, I suffered through the scratchiness, sensory nightmare, and then it doesn't look good. I don't like how it looks. So, the colors that I got are very specific because I don't like to have too many watercolors of a brand until I know that I'm really going to use the brand. I have a lot of different brands of watercolor because that's what I was telling you. The first time that I bought watercolors, I went into the store and I was like, hey, what should I get? And they just said, oh, this brand's really good and this brand's really good. They pointed out Daniel Smith and then Winsor Newton. Those are extremely different paints and how they work, and the person working there didn't mention that. And they're different in how they work because of their layering quality. So basically, some paints layer better and some paints layer not so great. And it's not a bad or a good thing. It's just that it depends on how you work. So I tend to do a lot of portraits, so I wouldn't ever want a paint that couldn't layer. For that reason, especially if I'm doing darker skin, because I personally have yet to find a way to make shadows or a whole like face of a person without putting a lot of layers. And so sorry, okay. I'm gonna put it on silent, okay? I've been trying to watch live streams lately to like get a sense of like how they are different or the same to like a edited video, and I would say they're a lot more chill than this is. Like I'm talking to you like I'm going to be editing out all the pauses and the ums, and that's not going to happen. Like you're seeing this live, you're seeing it just as it is, and if I say you're going to hear the and if I calmed myself and talked a little more slowly, which I don't really talk slow ever, but let's say that I just, didn't think of this as a video, might be a little more chill for you guys. So I'm gonna try to remember that in the other live streams that I'm watching, people are like just going about their day, doing their thing, packing orders. They don't talk for like 10 minutes and people stay on the stream. It's very amazing. I have very little faith that anybody would do that if everything went silent. But maybe people would. I don't know. Maybe you guys are all more patient than me. So I don't know. I don't know if these are good for layering, these particular paints, or not, like as a brand. So what I ended up learning in a class by, I think, Heather Heath. She did some classes through one of the art academies in Seattle online during the pandemic. She was teaching and she taught that these certain brands do great for layering and these don't. And that was so helpful because I was having the most frustration with painting probably my son or my husband at a cafe. And I was using Daniel Smith. Those are beautiful for doing like a big splash of paint and getting all your color down in one go and then leaving it alone. Which I suspect these might be the same because somebody described it as you put them down and leave them alone. Don't mess with them. Don't get finicky with them. I don't really know what that means, but we'll find out more today. So Daniel Smith, great for like plein air. You're just there, you're trying to get a burst of color down. But for layering and doing portraits where you're doing layer after layer, Winsor & Newton are better. And I was mixing the two, and that's not a good thing for my intents and purposes. I'm sure that there are uses for something like that. But for what I was trying to do, it wasn't great. And so now I try to, you know, take my Daniel Smiths if I'm going for, you know, like a hike and I want to paint the trees. But I don't want to bring them in to do a portrait anymore. So, and honestly, like for me at this point, I can make pretty much any paint go all over and be a lot of fun. I don't really find any of the main brands that I use. So what is the main brand that I've been using? Sennelier. That one's kind of like, that one doesn't, that one's great for layering, and it's my preferred, and I can have a lot of fun if I'm painting trees. I don't paint a lot of trees anymore though. So back to what we were doing here. Cochineal red. Am I pronouncing that like even close to correct? I don't know. But that one is, yeah, it's not lights fast. So I got vermilion, which gets a nice 4 stars. And this one's a little bit bigger, so I hope that I can see it without, like, the writing on these little tiny tubes is so small, but these are much bigger. So hopefully I can see them. And then I've been playing around with using black. So like this painting here, I did a black background. It's not really black. It's like black and some other color. And I picked up lamp black because I think that one is whatever the other black is. I would have to dig through my Sennelier paints. This is what we're going to be swatching probably next week, by the way. So if you're interested, oh no, they're both lamp black. Okay, so I don't have the black that's supposed to be super opaque. I think lamp black is the one that is more, what is the opposite of opaque? Translucent. Okay, cool. I mean, that's actually fine because at some point I want to be comparing brands and doing some brand comparisons. I think that would be fun, and I think other people really want to see that. I know that when I was first doing watercolor, I was a lot more interested in the colors than in the properties of the paint or the paper. I was certainly not interested in the properties of the paper. Like, I would probably have like painted on printer paper. I don't think I ever did, just because I happen to have a sketchbook that did okay as mixed media. But like, I didn't even realize how important paper was. So now I'm a lot less interested in the color and a lot more interested in the qualities of the paint. Like, is it going to stain? Is it going to lift easily? That's super, I tend to paint by lifting a lot. And that's actually another live stream that I might do one day, is like the special tools for watercolor that are more than your basic paintbrush and paint and paper. I've got some like magic erasers that I've used for lifting paint, because I like to do a lot of light leak type stuff where the sun is kind of behind a cloud or somebody's kind of like haloed in light. So a lot of times I'm gonna want a little bit of the pigment there and then to lift it just a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense. So we've talked about 2 of them. We've got our lamp black. I've been wanting to paint more dark backgrounds like this, but not just black. I'll be mixing this with something else. And then Payne's gray. I thought about getting neutral tint, which is what was my favorite in Winsor & Newton. Like, I love the neutral tint for Winsor & Newton, but I wanted to experiment a little bit more, and I felt like the black could be a good substitute for neutral tint if I mix it with something. I also want to mention that I haven't bothered with this here, but a lot of times I tend to prefer single pigment paints because you have a lot more predictable results when you're mixing it with other colors. And or at least other people, that's important to other people. And I was told to pay attention to that. And I've never actually noticed too much of a problem because I tend to paint muddy. Like I tend to favor more muddy colors like these here. They're not really a pure pigment, which we'll talk about a little bit when we're doing the color wheels. So I don't think that's like a huge issue for me, but if you were somebody who paints really bright and really likes primary colors, I think that would be a lot more important. But I also think that when you're just learning, it's at least good to know why you're getting the results that you're getting. And I think using a single pigment can help make that a little easier. Okay, I'm going to take some of these broken pieces and put them back where they go. Let's see how they re-wet. Do they re-wet? What happens? Does anybody know why Schminke paints act like this? This feels like I'm working with acrylics or something if it doesn't re-wet. Let's just leave it for a while. And we're gonna start with, I think I'll do this red at the bottom, and then we're gonna do, I like it to look nice when I'm looking at it, but I really don't like how this looks. I wish that this one was over here and that this was closer to these guys. Does anybody else get fixated on like rainbow order of things? Oh, okay. Ready? While we open it, is it gonna all over and separate, or is it gonna be nice and nicely mixed? It's like racing itself out of the tube, trying to get out, but it looks properly mixed. I think we only got one or two that were not, that the binder was separating last time. I have a lot of problem with the Senneliers, and they're still my favorite, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the colors I've chosen. They're a French brand, so I don't know if they have like more French leaning muddied tones to them, or the pen was like stuck. Looking for the name. So this is, oh, did I choose Payne's Gray? Y'all, you tell me, is that what I just opened and then put down? Or I thought I opened the black. Definitely not. That one's not like jumping out the way the Payne's Gray was. Okay, so I opened the Payne's Gray. Which language is English? I don't think there is English on here. Okay, I'm gonna spell gray. I'm gonna spell gray in, oh, wait, I think the second one is English. It's not like everything has to be in English. It'd be okay if it wasn't. Bluish. That's the thing about a lot of Americans, is that we think everywhere should speak English. And, you know, I mean, the reality is a lot of times that's true. But I have food allergies and I like to travel. And there's a lot of places I feel really uncomfortable visiting because I know that I would not be able to effectively communicate what I can eat. And so there's plenty of places that English speaking is not a thing. Okay. So it says 1 here, and I don't remember. That must be the series. And it looks like it is. I don't have my cheat sheet here that tells us what these symbols mean, but I guess it's semi-transparent and semi-staining. I can't remember which one is which, because every paint manufacturer kind of uses a different one, and honestly, like after I've swatched it, I oftentimes don't ever look back at this information unless I have something in mind. Unless I'm like, oh, I want to do a portrait and I want my base to be blue, like the first layer. And so I need a blue that's staining. And then I want my next layer to be non-staining so that it lifts easily. Okay, so we've got kind of in the middle, but it is light fast. Okay, so next we're gonna do the black. Oh, I forgot to write down the pigment number. PBK6 PB15.6. Lamp black. I'm sorry that you guys can't see very well while I'm writing. This is a single pigment. That's nice. PBK6. Okay, it's nice for somebody else who actually cares if their work isn't muddy. And then we've got 4 stars, which is really good in the world of watercolors. I think we had a 5-star. Yeah. The cobalt green pure and the raw umber and the cobalt blue were all 5 stars. I don't know how many hundreds of years this is for them. I'm going to assume none of these are granulating because I think the way Schminke does the granulation is like they make this bar here kind of like they show the granulation. If you can see that it's not just solid, but this brown seemed slightly granulated and it's just a solid color. And I don't think that they had anything on their website about granulation. That is actually super important to me because I don't like doing portraits with granulating pigment. Okay, and now we've got our light fast red, which is called Vermilion. When I hear the word vermilion, I just think of like a Jane Eyre novel or something, and I just imagine like an Alice in Wonderland type person. I don't think they're in that same time era, but like a young girl reading a book where they say the word vermilion or something. I don't know. Oh, that's really cool that you pay so much attention to the pigment number and everything. I'm embarrassed to admit I don't even realize that was a thing. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily important. It just depends, I think, on how you work. Like, I don't actually think that's that relevant to me. Granulation is. And then there's nowhere where it's written whether or not they're good at layering. You just need to know the brand. And I don't know how the teacher that told me about it knew. Like, I don't know where they got the information. Because I don't know how to find it out for this brand. And you know what's interesting about the pigments is that, so like PBK6, lamp black, it might look a little different depending on, like, you might have the same exact pigment but making different colors. I know that not all of the pigments are that flexible and that they can make different colors, but some of them that is a feature. And so the name of the pigment or the pigment number is not always relevant to what it'll actually look like in the end. So these two are both the same in that they are both mid staining and mid opacity, or I mean not opaque. I think that's saying it's not opaque. I would have to go back and look at my cheat sheet and I don't know where it is. So that is not going to happen. I'm not going to be searching for it. Okay, we've got it re-wetted. I'm going to guess it's this one. So I'm curious here. What does it look like once we've re-wet it? Does it behave exactly the same? I know with gouache, like I did a whole experiment with gouache to see if it behaved differently if you used it fresh or not, and it behaves really differently if you don't put it fresh. And I learned that I like to use fresh gouache, which to me is kind of wasteful. But I don't think that's the case with watercolor. I don't think it matters. All right, so I'm ready to swatch them now. I'm gonna get this Payne's gray bluish. Oh, that is so pretty. It's like, I'd say it's more green. How's it looking to you guys? I'm not seeing the green tinge so much on the monitor. Is it looking blue to you? I would say this is looking... I would say the colors that you guys are getting today are kind of desaturated. They're very close to accurate, but they're a little more desaturated than I would have expected. That's beautiful. I like that color. Where's my black? Okay, so this tube, like nothing came out at all. Nice. Need so little. Watercolor goes a long, long way. There's an artist who goes out into the wild and paints these huge, I mean, they're so big. It's on these huge, I guess they're canvases, but he's doing watercolor, so I don't know what we would call it. It's paper, and he rolls them up and he puts it in a tube and he puts it on his back, and he'll go out for days on end, and he'll have a tiny palette like this big, and it'll last him the whole time. And I find that quite incredible how far the watercolor goes. This huge canvas and this tiny palette. For me, half the excitement of paints is the colors, so that wouldn't work for me. I would find that sad and unrewarding. So it says it's very opaque. I'm gonna draw, well, it won't really work to draw a black line, but let's try this is actually a brown pen, I think. What color is this? It's so old that, like, I'm afraid maybe the color name is rubbed off. Maybe it's blue. I don't, oh, you know what? It just might be black. I usually buy blue or brown in that brand. I'm waiting too long to oh my gosh, I do not have words today. Oh, you want to know who that artist is? His name's John. And then the Wild Wonder Nature Conference is possibly funded by him or in his honor. So if you look up Wild Wonder Nature Journaling, I've done it twice. Really wonderful experience. No, it's not John Muir. Wow, that is opaque. Look at that. That line under it, that black line under it, gone. It's like ink. I have very little experience with black watercolor because it's just not great to use black, because so much of watercolor is about the light shining through the paper, and that just doesn't happen with most of, at least lamp black. Maybe with the other black. I'm confused now as to what kind I have. I'm gonna go with I have the one that's very opaque, not the semi-translucent one, unless I'm reading these symbols wrong. But I've, because I want to be doing work that looks a little bit more like this, I do need some darker colors. I need to be able to get to a dark color real quick. Most artists mix a color somewhat like this and a blue, I think, or like this, but maybe a little more orange, and a blue. And it makes a really beautiful deep color. I have had good luck with mixing neutral tint with like a color, an orange color like this. I'm trying to remember the name. I have it in my Daniel Smith watercolors. I was much more interested in like specific colors when I first started doing watercolor, and now I'm much more interested in the effect because I know that I can mix it. Okay, this one came out right away, but it hasn't separated. Where do we want to put it? Probably over here. I'm going to try to talk a little less and put this pigment down, and then I cannot remember the word, but basically I'm like putting water so that it, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is not red. This is orange. What do you guys think? Do you guys think, oh, it kind of looks red on my screen. Was I fast enough? I think it's too hot in here. I had my heat lamp on. I have the heater, like a space heater on. So I think it's way too warm. Or it's the paper. Because I was a lot faster then. And I didn't get a nice pull out. I would say pull out the color. Like, I think I did the best job on the red over here. Because everywhere else you've got some sort of back runs. Oh, I guess I did okay on that one too. Okay, so we're gonna wait for this to dry for a minute before I turn the page. Otherwise, you know, this color will get on the other side. And while it's drying, I'm gonna go put it by the space heater, which I think is still on. Let me check. It's on. And while it's on, I'm going to take a drink of water. For anybody who's out there, it's been like 30 minutes. But we should all drink some water. It's been almost 40 minutes. Is it John Muir Laws? No, he's the one who runs it. Those workshops look amazing. I've been planning to run retreats like this here for years. Oh, that'd be amazing. But a big endeavor. It looks like a lot of work. So, but yeah, it would be so cool. But yeah, John Muir Laws is I actually have one of his books. I got one of his books before I ever knew about his nature conferences. But he is the guy, as far as I know, he runs it. I don't know if he's still running it this year. But the other one, his name is still John. It's a different John. And if I remember it, I'll let you know. I've been doing myofunctional therapy for a couple of years now. Maybe it's not years, but it feels like years. And one of the hardest things for me to learn is how to swallow properly, because I had a tongue tie. And so I'm actually really self-conscious about drinking or eating on film, because in some of my videos, you can even see it. Some of them I didn't cut it out. I usually cut it out. But when I swallow, I look like a frog swallowing an egg, like, and I'll make this very loud audible noise. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it is like something I'm self-conscious about, because it signifies something's wrong with me. Like, it makes me swallow a lot of air, or the tongue tie did. I was swallowing air because when you have a tongue tie, swallowing's difficult, and sometimes swallowing air can help you get more function out of your tongue that is somewhat limited. So it's like, and it's an adaptation. There's nothing wrong with it, except that in my case, you know, I'm swallowing air and I don't need to anymore. My tongue tie has been released. I can not swallow like a frog and get a stomach ache if I don't want to, which I don't. I also avoided drinking water for like an hour before the live stream because I didn't want to have to jump up and go to the bathroom frequently, because that is how I roll normally. Yep, I'm that person that if I'm on an airplane, I'm sitting on the outside seat because I'll be going to the bathroom like 500 times and I don't want to climb over anyone. So make a personal color wheel with tints and shades. This is what we did in the last live stream. Or no, I think I just showed you like what I had made on the iPad. And let me see if I can find it for you. I've got it open. And we were choosing colors for... Great. The charger just fell. We were choosing colors for that painting that I have yet to apply. And this was the kind of the palette that I was going for. So this is the palette that I made. I'm going to leave this open on my iPad and I'm going to hold it over here and I'm going to be referencing it. And these were some colors that I had pulled from this palette and then messed with and manipulated and decreased the saturation, increased the saturation to see what I liked for this particular painting. I know that when I find an artist, oops, I mean, I love all kinds of art, but I know that when I find an artist, I'm getting my charger for the iPad back up so it doesn't die on me midstream. I think I'm most drawn to the arts that have like some brown in it, like this background that I've made for us, or this sweater that I'm wearing, or, you know, the background somewhat here. I like it to have a very grounded feel. By ground, I mean like literally ground. Just looking at the chat real quick. Make sure I don't miss any of your comments. So the palette that I made, that I showed you, is pretty, I'd say dark. And so if you noticed with the book, I've got two different ones, and I'm going to try to do one with very muted and one less muted. I don't know if I'm going to remember to do that. What I'll do is if I make a color, I'm just going to be making colors, and if that color looks like it's kind of like brighter, I'll put it on the right side, and if it's kind of darker or more muted, and by muted I mean it has other colors in it. So for example, if you mix red and green, it's complementary colors, right? Is that the word? I know it would be written in this book. We would get all of the different, I didn't go to art school, so I don't have all of those things memorized by name, but more like by concept. Oh, here we go. If you mix, here's orange and green, you get like a weird greeny muddy color, but it's really pretty. It's like avocado and I like it. And same with purple. But some people don't like that. Some people like these saturated colors that are bright by themselves, but I prefer to have most of my colors be muted and then with some bright pops of color. Okay, I think it's dry. I put it on mute, but somebody texted me that's on the exceptions list. So y'all get to hear it. I should have put it on airplane mode. Trying to think if there's anything I want to share with you here before we move on. Oh, we might do this one of these days. That is tedious. Very tedious. I've done it several times. It would be nice to have company to do this. John Wosley? He's one of my favorite artists. He lives in Australia. I don't think so. I don't think it's Wosley. I think I've heard of him. Maybe from you. Maybe do you want to link his work in the chats maybe? That'd be cool to see it. No. Maybe his name isn't John. Maybe I'm misremembering. It still feels wet. That's okay. It's actually only wet up to here. So we'll just start with yellows, and then hopefully by the time we get to blue and purple. I was a little bit concerned about this notebook, and so there's paint on the other side of this page. How is that going to make this paint on this page work? Because the paper's already been saturated, and it may change the properties of the paper, because I'm guessing that this paper doesn't really have much sizing in it, because sizing is what makes, it's like gelatin or something similar. It's what makes paper not completely absorb the watercolor immediately. Instead of it sinking right through, it, sits on the surface a bit. It does absorb, but not too much. It's kind of like, it's paper, but it's not. Now I've painted on plastic paper, and that is not very fun. I mean, well, actually, you can get some really cool effects, but it's not. If it doesn't absorb into the paper at all, then you certainly can't do layering, and you don't have a lot of control. It moves too much. So good watercolor paper has like some in between in how much water it's going to absorb. Okay. So I only have one yellow. Normally I go for multiple yellows. I like to go for like a really clean lemon yellow to do mixing, but I realized like I don't ever paint with a clean yellow color. So if I decide that I absolutely adore Schminke paints, then I'll get us a yellow that's lemon yellow. But until then, I'm not gonna like buy a ton of paints in this color. I mean, that'd be kind of good for like a future video comparing. I'm re-wetting this. It may take a minute. It might be good for a future video where I'm comparing a lot of different colors. That might be a lot of fun. But I don't think it would necessarily be useful for my particular paintings. I really like that this yellow just out of the tube, and I would call this a brighter color. So this is Cadmium Yellow Deep. And so up here is going to be hues, tints, shades, and tones. Do you guys hear my dog? She's like grunting. Oh, okay, yeah. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys, is that this weekend we had to put our little dog down. Both dogs are 16. The little dog might have been a little older. We got her as a rescue, so they kind of acted like she was a puppy when we got her. They said she was a puppy, and she did change a lot. So maybe they were right. The vet said that. Like with the pound that we got her from, they didn't say anything about her age one way or another. So they looked at her teeth when we took her in to the vet, and they said, yeah, they thought she was about a year. So, and Taya, our big dog, can you see her? Yeah, right there. She was a year when we got Toffee, who was a year. Or the vet thought she was probably a year. So we always thought that they were about the same age. But Toffee really declined quickly, and she's so much smaller than Taya. But I guess she wasn't, I mean, we don't know what kind of dog she was, but she was probably a Pomeranian Corgi mix. I was looking for a Corgi. I tried to link, but it wouldn't let me. It's probably because people link creepy stuff. That's okay. Thank you for trying. We can all look up his name if we want to. If you guys don't know this trick, take a screenshot with your phone. I don't know if this works with all phones, but it works with Apple. Take a screenshot with your phone, and then you can push on your finger on whatever word, and it'll like highlight the word, and you can copy and paste. So if you can't figure out how to spell it or something, I have trouble with that a lot of the time. You can use that trick. Yeah, well, thanks for trying, Katie. I appreciate that. Yeah, so Toffee probably had been showing signs of dementia for years, but we didn't really notice. But we noticed it drastically when we got back from... I had suspected it the last year, but when we got back from our trip to visit my husband's family, she was an absolute mess, and we actually thought that it was over. We thought she wasn't going to be able to function, but then we put her on gabapentin for a while, and it helped calm her down, and then we were able to take her off of it, and we tried some nice supplements that the vet recommended, and she was doing pretty good for a while. But now looking back, I realized she wasn't the same dog. She hadn't been happy in a long time. And last week she just really, I don't know the right word. I'm hearing the words in my head: disintegrated, decayed, regressed. Things just went downhill fast, and she was crying at night all the time, no matter what we gave her to help. And at one point she was like crying and eating after we gave her some CBD oil. Like, I don't know if she got the munchies or what happened, but she was like so upset. And I was like, okay, we've done everything we can for her. Nobody's sleeping, because this was at night. Her sleep schedule got messed up. So that's one of the signs of dementia, is that their sleep gets backwards. And she's kind of been like that lately, but she had like a really awful UTI that made her drink a lot of water and pee a lot. So I don't know if she just got used to getting up at night, but we're giving her gabapentin, and she's doing great. So, and she's happy, and she knows who we are, and the things that she loves, she still loves. Whereas with Toffee, she just didn't love the things that she loved anymore, and it was very, very sad. So it was so scary to do. We've had this blessing of, we had kids, and then we got some dogs kind of for the kids, and then they all grew up together. One kid has moved out, one kid is graduating high school, and so we've never had to tell an animal goodbye. We did have an incident with a bunny that we found at the park. That is a story for another day. Kind of a traumatic story, so like, I don't want to, if any kids are listening, I wouldn't want to tell it necessarily. And then we had a cat that we don't have anymore, because we gave the cat to somebody else because we needed to move, and the place we were going didn't accept cats. Well, thanks, Katie. Yeah, I mean, I'm sad sometimes, like when I think about it, like I get a little teary, but she was so miserable. And I've known since the end of July that I was going to have to make a decision. I knew the decision would be on me, because I was told by the other family members that the decision was on me. So like, I knew we would need to decide when her quality of life and our quality of life wasn't good anymore. And it probably hadn't been good enough for her for a while, but then every so often she'd get like this little spark of her old spirit back, and she'd like run up and down the hallway, and then I'd be like, oh, she likes her life. I'm glad I didn't take her out yet, you know? But like, I don't know. It was a really hard decision to make, but I was thinking about it all the time. So I feel like I've done a lot of mourning already, and I mostly feel relief. And that's, I kind of feel like I shouldn't. I feel like I shouldn't be feeling relief, because it seems a little selfish, but she we could not provide for her what she needed. She was in diapers. She didn't understand. Like, I want to get back to painting, but I put way too much water on this, so I'm kind of stalling here. But she would forget things sometimes. Like, she'd be out in the backyard, and I'd be like, she'd start yelling. Like, she had no sense of time. So, like, when she was younger, she'd bark if she wanted to come in, like a nice bark, something like that, right? And the last couple, and then like when she was younger, if she got frustrated and you didn't listen after like 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know how long. It probably was never that long, probably about 5 minutes. Let's say you can't get to the dog immediately and let her in. She'd like maybe make a panicked bark, like I'm really upset. But it would take a while. Like, she'd have to like gear up to that level of distress. But when she became a dementia patient, as our son said it, our poor son didn't tell us that this dog slept in his room. And for like months, she was walking around at night. And he never told us because he just loved her. And I finally insisted. And then I was like, okay, now that I know this is happening, I need to take her crate out of your room. You need to sleep at night. And he's like, no, I don't want her out. And like, I finally just insisted because like that wasn't good for him. So her crate hasn't been in his room in a long time. But yeah, so like there were signs that she was having issues. But yeah, so once she became a dementia patient, she would start the hysterical bark immediately. So like there wasn't any space, like there was no warning bark. It was I'm panicked immediately. And so there was no space. Like if you put the dog outside and then you went and got a drink of water, by the time you finished your water, if she had decided she wanted to come in, she's panicking. And that was really sad. It was irritating at first. And then you're just like, man, what are you going through? Like what demons are in your head? What are you seeing that makes you react like that? It was really sad. And then like the last couple of weeks, it wasn't every day. And it was kind of funny sometimes. Like I'd open the sliding door and she would, okay, so there's stairs or like, yeah. So like you're outside of the patio and there's not necessarily, okay. So the dog is standing on the other side of the sliding door. So let's say that you open a sliding door this much, right? This is 100%. This is 0%. The dog is here. The sliding door sticks, and so it's easier to just open it to here, which is fine because a dog can walk a few feet and come in the door. But for poor Toffee, if I didn't open the door all the way, she wouldn't know how to get in. So if I'd open the door like this, she'd just be staring at the closed part. And it didn't matter if I called her. We thought maybe she was deaf, but then for a while on the gabapentin, she could hear again. So I don't think it was deaf. I think she couldn't like process our speech or understand what we were saying. So I'm calling her to be like, Toffee, come in. And I'd either have to bend over and lead her through the door, or I'd have to open the door all the way because she couldn't walk the foot. She couldn't figure that out. Now, she was never the brightest crown in the box. And as far as problem solving goes, that wasn't her strength. She was pretty amazing at some things. Like that dog knew in the past, like years ago, that dog knew if I thought about taking them for a walk. If I thought about it, she'd start running around the house so excited. I don't know how she knew. I wouldn't have even like walked over to the leashes. I wouldn't have put my shoes on. I wouldn't have said anything to the kids about it. I would have just thought, oh, I should take these dogs for a walk. And she would be jubilant. I don't know how she knew. But so she definitely had strengths of, there were some areas of intelligence, but I don't think, for the most part, it wasn't, problem solving. Like, how do I, like if the couch is there and there's a human on one side and Toffee's on the other and you call Toffee, she might not always figure out how to get around the couch. She'd get too excited. I think it was more just like, I'm coming to you. Wait, there's an object in the way. What do I do? And I'm like, walk around the couch. The couch she could probably figure out because I was always there. But maybe like an unusual new object she might struggle with. Okay. I think that's dry. And I wanted it to dry because I didn't want them to blend into each other too much. That's okay with some of the colors. But for the yellow, I felt like that would be too... I want to be able to see the yellow. Yellow can get muddy really fast. Okay, so we're making it a yellow orange. I feel like there's not enough pigment here. I don't want too much water. Mostly just for these colors. For the lighter colors, I don't mind if there's a lot of water because that will be... I'm going to add a little blue. So this is make your own color wheel. So somebody else's favorite yellow-orange might not have blue in it, but mine does. Mine is a little muddied. So having most of these colors have a lot of water in them is fine because this is like the brighter side. Over here, I'm not going to want that much water. And then, okay, if we tint it and add white, that would be adding water. I did buy white watercolor. I did not buy... Actually, I don't think I bought it. Oh, maybe I did. I think I got it in Sennelier. But I do have it in this brand. I never use it. Huh, where is it? I know I got some. Huh. Well, I'll have to look for it when I'm done here. Because I was going to use it on the next live stream. Is that it? Nope. Okay. We'll just add white for the sake of this experiment. This is a really old... This is before I gave up on white watercolor and just... Oh, there you go. Do you see that? Do you see how the binder separated? I'm going to squeeze out some more. Oh, it's all binder. Okay, we got some pigment there. Not much, though. It's very yellow looking, which is not what I'm planning. The reason I want to do like the tints and shades right now is just I think it would be a lot easier to use it while the color's wet. Ooh, that worked out really nicely. Ooh, how pretty. And do I want them to mix? Kind of. I wouldn't mind if they mix just a little bit. Okay. Is there enough white left that I can mix it with the yellow? Yeah. Okay. That's a very peach color there. A color that I think I can wear because I think I'm somebody who tends towards, in their color palette, tends towards warm colors, but actually I don't think I can wear peach. I don't think I can wear light colors without that much success. I think they wash me out. And I'm not really sure about my color season anymore because I think I'm too close to neutral. Okay, I'm propping this up so that it doesn't keep leaking into the yellow side. Do we have an orange? We do not. We're just gonna have to make one. I think that looks exactly like our yellow orange. I don't think I put enough yellow. I think I made more of a red orange. Maybe with that. I think there's not enough yellow. This should be. I got confused. Okay, so let's add some white. I think that has more red in it than yellow. Red orange. Okay, let's try this again. Not very much yellow, mostly red. and a little blue. Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. I don't know if it's going to be enough to fill this. This feels like gouache. I think it's because of the paper, but it's like just going into the paper and just staying exactly where you put it. I'm going to have to try this on 100% cotton paper because that's a very interesting feature. The only other paint I've ever used that's like that is Magello Mission Gold. And that's a Korean brand of watercolor paint that I love working with if I am not wanting a lot of movement, which is kind of like defeats the purpose of watercolor. Okay, let's get some. That's a pretty color. I think I could get away with wearing this color. I think there's enough red in it. I need because I'm very kind of a green person, wearing things with a little bit of red in it, like brown or anything that brings out red, or pink, like blue. Like wearing blue would be fine because it's the opposite on the color wheel and it brings it out. Yeah, I could wear that. Yep, definitely didn't put enough yellow there. I wonder if I just like add some yellow on top, if I can save this, because this isn't dry. Let's see if we can mix it in. Is it working? No, now it's like the same as the orange color. I mean, it is working, but I just need to add a lot more yellow. Okay, I mean, maybe I solved it. I don't know. Did I solve it there? Maybe. We'll see when it dries. Now we're doing red. We're doing bright colors, so I think I'm pretty happy with just red as it is. This reddish orange color. I got these paints from Blick when I had a 20% off coupon, which made me happy. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to maybe getting more joy than you should out of being able to get something on a discount. I'm not the kind of person who's like, I'm buying that because it's on sale. No, I need to have already planned on purchasing it or it's not happening. Oh, that is gorgeous. Okay, I'm learning that I really like tinted shades. Is that in this? Like, let's say like some of the color is there. Okay, so it's not necessarily, when I say I like muted colors, what I mean is like a color that's mixed with the color opposite on the color wheel. So like blue with orange. Like not a lot of either color, having one color be more dominant. I'm gonna soak up whatever water dropped right there. Yeah, my son must have fed her because she's very peaceful. Okay, so now we need red purple. I don't have a purple. So we're gonna get blue and we're gonna mix it with red. And we're gonna start a new situation over here. I love this blue. So I'm actually gonna just put it right here while it's nice and pure and unadulterated by any other colors. Maybe I don't like it as much as I thought I did. Maybe it's the lighting in here. I don't know. It's okay. I'm just less excited about it. Sorry, guys. So we're gonna get some red. We're gonna pull up some red. And we're gonna mix it with the blue. And it's gonna make a terrible purple, just so you know, because this is mostly orange. So it can't make. The best thing to have would be magenta. And the best thing I think to make purple is usually magenta, and we don't have that. So, but this is a purple I absolutely adore because I don't tend to love. Sorry, did we put more blue in that or did we put more red in that? I'm gonna go with more red. Yeah, so I prefer a muted purple. I'm excited to see what this will look like with white mixed in. I feel like it's not like it's like really beating up, which normally is a great thing, but I feel like it's not working in my favor this evening. I think maybe this had more blue. Oh, you know what though? I probably should have put this in just straight up purple, but it's not a purple. Like, okay. Do I want to try to use, maybe I can try to use the other red. And that's a more true red, and I think it'll make a nicer purple, or a more true purple. You know what I found out a couple months ago? I found out that magenta isn't a color that's in the rainbow spectrum. Now I wonder if it is, but it's just like in a different part than where we would see it. Like we would see it at either, well, what we're seeing is red and purple mixed together, and our brain is like, oh, that's not a thing, and so we turn it into magenta. I'm sorry, it isn't a thing in reality, but our brain is like, no, I'm gonna make it be something because I need it to be something. And then we see magenta even though it's not actually there. I wonder though if it's somewhere on the light spectrum, but in like somewhere where we can't say, oh, that's a much brighter purple. Like there are so many insects that see colors that we can't see. And then like people who have had near-death experiences, they talk about like seeing colors that like didn't exist or that don't exist on our plane of existence. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But that's just what, you know, that's what they share. Oh, I like that. That's so pretty. I hope it, I don't mind that the color mix, but I hope it doesn't mix so much that you can't see the original color. The original color being the mostly white mixed with a little bit of purple color. That's so pretty though. That's the thing I love about watercolors when it does stuff like that. Like just these kind of happy accidents. Okay, so do I want to use the real purple? I think so. I think I'll just add some more blue. I probably would never use this red in a painting though, because just in case I ever wanted to sell the painting. I would totally use it in a sketchbook. No problem. More blue. That looks good. I don't think I added enough blue. Let's add a little bit more. Let's just switch the mixing over to here so it's mostly blue. I do something that I don't know if other artists do this, but I like mix on the paper sometimes. You can do this. Oh, thank you, Katie. I was like, do I want to bring do I want to bring up near-death experiences on a public platform? It can be a very, is the word derisive topic? You don't know how people might respond. You think we're getting more colors as we evolve? Oh, that's an interesting way to think about it. Yeah. I mean, when you say evolve, what do you mean? Because I feel like humans evolve very, very, very slowly. Because at least that's what I was taught. Oh, hi, Andrea. You also mix on the paper? Okay. Yeah, I kind of always felt like I was doing something wrong when I do it because I've never read about anyone doing it. And so it just seemed kind of like a not best practices. Not like I'm bad or something, but just like you're not going to get the greatest results. But like it's always worked out for me. So like if I start something and it's like, oh, because I can be a little impulsive and I'm getting a lot better. The older I get, I have more forethought before I do something, or just at least more best practices, such as like having a sheet where you mark the color first so you can know what you're doing. But as you can see, I sat down here and I haven't once, used any other spot on the paper to test my colors. I'm so in the habit of, especially when you're doing like painting in, I was going to say in the streets. What is the word? Plein air painting or urban sketching. If you're doing like urban sketching, you go and you gotta, it's kind of like a wham bam thank you ma'am kind of thing, because if you take too much time with something, you could lose your subject. They might move, the lighting might change, everything might change. And so that's where I like learn most of my watercolor. And so you don't really have time for this. You don't have time to like sit and think, is this sunset more of a purpley or more of a blue? No, you just put it down, and if it doesn't work, then you add some more color and mix on the paper. Katie says, I have no idea if this is true, but apparently we couldn't see blue hundreds of years ago. There was a poem in which the sea is referred to as wine colored, and I don't think that's definitive though. Yeah, I've heard that too. In fact, I listened to a podcast about it. It was either Invisibilia or Stuff You Should Know. I don't remember which one, but my son and I listened to it. Gosh, he would have been like 9 years old or something, like over 10 years ago. But I remember reading that and being like, well, it'd be kind of hard to know because language changes as well. So we don't really know. They might have had blue wine. I don't know. Or like there was a volcano or whatever. But at the same time, the interesting thing about language is language forms what you understand about the world around you. So if somebody is traumatized, for example, you can be as nice to them as you want, but they may see danger in you, even if you're kind. And in fact, that's why we get the different attachment styles, like avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, combination, and then you've got secure, somebody with like at least minimal trauma. But like you see things that aren't you notice what you pay attention to and what you have words for. So like I worked with a lot of nonverbal kids in my life before being an artist. And my job was to help them gain communication skills and socialization skills, as if I should be the one teaching anybody how to properly socialize. But like, also poets are pretty out there. That's also like, yeah, that's also true. But like, I mean, there seems to be some validity to it. Like, I think that there are some cultures that don't have a word for green. Everything's blue. And that's odd because like green is so everywhere. Like to me, the plant and that green, you guys can't see it. I've got like a bright blue notebook just out of frame. I'm like, those are not the same color. It's so obvious to me, but I also know that if I was up in Iceland or northern Canada, I'm not going to see the differences in the snow. I'm going to be like, snow, snow. And they're like, that was sleet. You're going to slip on that and break yourself. Look at me. I'm so proud of myself. I didn't say a bad word. It's something I was really worried about with live streams. Like, can I stop myself? I just did. And I'm very proud. So you can break yourself if you step on that sleet, ice type of snow that we have a special name for that you don't, because you are in, you know, the Pacific Northwest or California, and you will never see that much snow ever, or you won't see enough snow to ever need to care. I did a test with my husband to like, and I think I did it with one of my kids, maybe both of them, where you look at like, they test you on like your color recognition, and I got significantly higher than anybody else. And at that time I wasn't doing a lot of art, but I was doing a lot of sewing of clothes, and so you have to do like a lot of color matching for clothes, picking out fabrics and everything, and I was dyeing clothes and all that. So there's definitely, I'm able to see colors that the people who live with me can't see. So I mean, it may have been a wine red sea. It would be interesting. I don't know if we'll ever know, but it is something really interesting to contemplate. And then like, oh, if there's other dimensions, what colors are there? And the math says that there are other dimensions. Math can be wrong, I guess, but yeah, it's really fascinating. Okay, I totally got off on a tangent, and now I don't remember if that, I think, is the one with more blue. Okay, so we're good. I'm going to be able to add white to this one with a success, I think, and get something accurate. What I mean is my tangent has not caused me to make an error that I will regret later when I'm looking at this, trying to make decisions, and I'm like, well, how did I make the color? And I'll have no idea. No, I think I'm still going to know. Okay, but we need white for just the blue. Oh, that's cool. Nope, didn't add enough white. We're gonna mix on the paper. Andrea, if you're still there. Paper mixing buddies. That didn't make sense. Paper mixing. Mixing on paper. Mixing watercolor on paper buddies. I'm so glad to know I'm not the only one. Oh, did I put enough white this time? Maybe. We can also just add more water because it is watercolor, and that will work just as well. Yeah, I've been playing with watercolor for years, probably about 5 years, and I almost used it exclusively for a while because I find it a really difficult medium. Andrea says laughing emoji, right? It's laughing. Yeah. The emojis that are available to me are a little bit different than the ones I'm used to seeing on like my phone. So I was like, what am I seeing? Or maybe I'm not that great at facial expression recognition. What was I saying? It's gone. Blue green. Do I have green? Yes, I have a green. And it's already on the palette. But my experience is that this doesn't re-wet. Oh my gosh, that is hard to open. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, so I was telling you, I've been doing watercolor for years. And I didn't mess at all with, oh, please don't come out. Don't come out anymore. I didn't mess around with black and I didn't mess around with white. I just found them to be pointless. Not pointless, but it's just like, if you're going to be a purist about watercolors, people don't use them. Or maybe people use black if you're only experienced, but I don't really hear people talking about using white. But I follow this artist. His name is Kellogg Loops. I don't remember his human name. That's his, yeah, I don't have words today. What is it? Handle. His like YouTube handle. And he's Australian. Katie, do you know him? I saw him using white a lot, and I love his paintings. And what's interesting is like, he doesn't use a lot of color, and he has a lot of colors that he refuses to use. I'm trying to remember, was it blue? A lot of artists I've been hearing lately do not like to use blue. I love blue, but hate it almost always in my paintings, and I don't know why. Does anybody know? I know a lot of people have issue with blue-green. Did I do it right? Is this a blue-green? I get a little confused about like, yeah, because we're just going to add yellow. Okay, so we're going to take that color and we're going to add some yellow to it. Oh boy, was there none left on the palette to add yellow to? I hope so. Nope. That is just sad. Very sad. Just like really not highly pigmented is what I mean by sad. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna make this and we're gonna pick up we're gonna put some more yellow down because we need more pigment for the top row, at least. The ones that are supposed to be saturated. No, you don't know him. What's the name again? I hate using green and rarely do. Okay, tell me more. Why do you hate using green? I find it to be garish, which I find bizarre because I think it's literally pretty color accurate when I'm doing like a painting in the outdoors, but I won't like it until I've really muddied it up. So what's your experience? I've heard that so many times of artists hating. I think this needs more yellow. I've heard a lot of artists say that they really do not like green. But I remember reading that in like a artist's workbook when I was very new to watercolor, and I kind of have my own opinions now that I've been doing it so long. Oh, that's what I was telling you guys. Like I only did I only worked with watercolor for a very long time because I wanted to get to know it well, and I didn't think that I would be able to get good at it if I was mixing up my mediums, like using pencils or mostly like using gouache or acrylic or something like that. And I'm glad that I did that. I'm glad that I focused on watercolor for a really long time because I do have like a pretty deep understanding, like muscle memory of how it'll work. I'm not sure if I said it, but Kellogg Loops, and it's like K-L-E-E, 2 E's? Like kind of like Fruit Loops or Kellogg's. Like to me, his name always sounds like cereal, which may be what he's going for. I grew up in like the Filipino culture. I don't know where his roots are, but it's possible that he could be Filipino, and that just sounds like something that some of my Filipino classmates would say, or one of my best friend growing up was Filipino, and like it sounds like a joke that her cousins or her would make. So I've just always, but I have no idea. Like He could be from anywhere. I really don't know. Or like his family ancestry could have been from anywhere. But he, like, I've always just like associated like the Kellogg Loops, like the cereal, kind of like him calling himself cereal. I've just always projected on him Filipino-ness, or maybe even Mexican-ness, because like I also grew up with Mexicans and they tend to have like, I don't think they'd make that joke though. They tend to be more like of a, maybe they could. I've found that since I've moved to the Pacific Northwest, my sense of humor is not particularly appreciated because it's very Mexican in nature, because I grew up in Southern California, and so like the way of being funny is really different up here. And I also tend to like make jokes that are kind of deadpan, like just say something like I'm serious, like something like that I think is so ridiculous there's no way anybody could think I'm serious, and then they take me seriously and I'm like, oh crap. I think it's about the Australian landscape. It isn't, oh, sorry, Katie says this. Katie's saying, I think it's about the Australian landscape. It just isn't reflective of our landscape here. It's so prescriptive out of the tube and so European. I might use it as a tint, but I'll mix it my own. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because I think we had a lot of trees in Southern California. The part I was in, like, was closer to Palm Springs, where it's quite a bit drier. Very dry. I don't like being dry. I'm, like, always dehydrated. So, like, I didn't love the landscape, but we had a lot of eucalyptus trees, like tons of eucalyptus trees. And I think that the landscape there was called Chaparral, which is also in Italy, or like at least southern Italy, and it's kind of rare. And I'm wondering, is that all of Australia, Katie, or is that just like certain parts of Australia? But yeah, I wasn't using watercolor in Southern California, and I think it would have been like it wouldn't have worked out real well because it was so dry where I was. I remember reading somewhere that certain mediums are best depending on your location. So for example, if you live in New Mexico, maybe use chalk. If you live in England, maybe use watercolor. So like I've been using watercolors as long as I've lived here, and that has been a really good fit. Katie also says, I think it's about adding a third color. I always use earthy brown, orange, and blue. Adding a third's just awful in my art anyway. Adding a third. I always use earthy brown, orange, and blue. Huh. That's interesting. I tend to default to using all of the colors, and then I don't like my art. But 3, not being able to use even 3 feels really limiting. I don't remember your art looking that monochromatic though. Not that, you know, orangey brown and then a blue would be monochromatic, but like I don't remember in the Katie, in the book cover that you did. That's when I was on Patreon the most, is when you were working on the book cover. So that's the piece of your art that I've seen most frequently. I remember that having a lot of colors, but maybe that's because you were doing it for somebody else's desires. Like obviously the writer of the book. So maybe you were doing different than you normally would for your own stuff. For your fine art, not your still illustration. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah. Okay, but like I remember the work that you were doing, I don't remember her name, but you were working with an Aborigines woman at a gallery, and she was, I don't remember what her work looked like, but I remember you doing like these like long mountainous landscapes that were like in a deep earthy rich brown, just gorgeous. And like you were doing like a lot of textural stuff, right? Like you were adding a lot of stuff to it. That was super cool. Like in that case, like if you're adding like a lot of texture and stuff, like if you only have like one or two colors, it's still dynamic. You don't need the colors to make it dynamic. There's a huge variety of landscape here, including rainforest, but it's still more earthy. Yeah, I would assume, because Australia is really big, right? Like I don't know how big it is, because you guys are actually, so maps lie, And anything at the top and the bottom of the map are going to look a lot bigger than they are. So for example, Greenland looks huge, but it's actually really tiny. So Australia might look a lot bigger on the map than it actually is, but I perceive it to be large. And then like the US is about average size because it's somewhere in the middle. So it's like somewhat accurate. The Mercator map, which is the one that we use most of the time for like Google Maps or whatever. But I mean, I've looked on Australia on a globe. I don't own a globe anymore. My kids kind of broke all of our globes. Okay, complementary colors are opposite. Creating art with a triad is hard, icky. Huh. Same size as the US, which is pretty big. I learned how big the US, I shouldn't say I learned how big the US was. We have a lot of family in Europe. When you go there, they can like go from one country to the next and like be speaking a completely different language so quickly. And like, my husband's from Kenya, and so we also go to Kenya pretty often. And so where Europe feels incredibly tiny because you can bounce around from country to country, Africa feels immense. Because one time, and this is I hope nobody makes a soundbite of what I'm saying because I'm not the one who said it. Some lady did. But I was like at a sewing class or something and told the lady, hey, I'm going to Kenya in a couple weeks. And she's like, this was during the Ebola breakout in West Africa. Kenya's in East Africa, if you didn't know. So there's an Ebola breakout. I've already researched it because that's how I am. That's how I roll. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm going in a couple weeks. And she's like, oh, you shouldn't go to Africa. There are buggies there. And I was like, oh my gosh. When people say stuff like that, I tend to like sometimes freeze and like not know how to respond because I'm like, are you really saying what I think you're saying? Did you just say there are buggies in my husband's continent and I shouldn't go there? But then I was like, well, how close are they? I don't think I need to be worried about this, but let me go check. So I went home and I researched, and so Africa's big. It's because it's like this and then it's like this, right? It's like, it's not quite it's a lot of mass, but it's not, it's bigger on one side. It's bigger left to right or horizontal than it is vertical. Well, I wouldn't say it's bigger. Oh my gosh, how to say this? You guys know what Africa looks like. I don't need to explain it. Okay. So anyways, at least from the west coast of Africa to the east coast of Africa, which is what I found relevant at this time, it's to New York and back in the US. And that is a really, 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 that's a long trip from SeaTac to JFK is like 5 to 7 hours. I don't remember. I literally took this flight a couple of months ago. And I don't remember. Because any flight that's under 10 hours to me seems short because we always are not always. We didn't go for years and years. But like the most frequent trips I've made are to the Netherlands. So or UK. And those flights are at least 10 hours. And then if you're going to Kenya, you're going to go to one of those countries and then you're going to fly from there to Kenya. You could also stop over in Turkey or Dubai. But that flight will also be like 10 hours because it's like 22 hours round trip to Kenya because there are no direct flights. If there were direct flights from New York, it'd probably be a shorter flight, but that's not a thing. Well, Katie, I'm going to use that green that you hate. Got a nice break blabbering about stuff. I kind of hate that maps lie because we use them so much and there's just so much inbuilt prejudice to them and nobody knows that they're being manipulated. Like it doesn't even occur to people and there's no way you would ever know because at least in the US, schools never ever teach about maps. Like as far as the US is concerned, you don't need to know about anything outside of your own front door, which I think is so, so boring. So Katie, do you like, if you don't like trying to paint with a triad, how does looking at a color wheel feel for you? Because like looking at a color wheel brings me so much joy. Going into a, like, you know, the backpacks that are like really square. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Fjallraven. Going into their store and seeing all of their backpacks on the wall lined up in color order makes me super happy. Or any product placement. I'm like, oh, I want that object. And then I realize, no, what I want is all of the objects that are in rainbow order. So it brings me a lot of joy to, sorry, I'm like making blue-green here. What colors do I need before I add white? This is what I need. Do you like rainbows? I really like rainbows, but yeah, I'm not finding painting with them is easy. I find it super challenging. And maybe that's because it's a triad. And I should study triads and memorize them, and then I would know what I'm getting myself into. Green is pretty realistic for, by the way, green is pretty realistic for Pacific Northwest, which is like when I'm painting outside. I've done some painting in Canada outside and like Montreal, and did I do any? Well, I didn't do much outside painting while I was traveling Europe, so I don't really have an opinion. I didn't put enough white in. I don't have an opinion on like whether the colors were realistic, but I think it would be. I think that the Netherlands gets about as much rainfall as the Pacific Northwest does, UK as well. I decided I wanted more yellow for this. Oh no, I've muddied my yellow. I was being so careful, and I finally muddied it. Do I even have enough pigment here? I don't know. Okay, yeah, that's great. Okay, so this is the color wheel, or at least the base color wheel that I was able to make with Schmincke Watercolors. And we haven't even used all the colors. We've not used any of we haven't used the Payne's Gray or the Lamp Black. Not that I really intended to, and I definitely haven't used any of the granulating colors. I don't know if I would, except that turquoise is one of my favorite things. I like using turquoise as like a highlight. I used to use yellow as a highlight, like to make something look brighter, and I ended up feeling like that was kind of garish. And so I usually use it in pencil form when I'm finishing a painting off. And I'm at that point not interested in reality in the slightest. I'm just like, how can I make this painting look better? And I just always almost automatically grab for that pencil and start blocking things in. Shade. Shade means, oh yeah, so I was saying I'd probably use this one. Like I could theoretically put it as my favorite blue or my favorite blue-green. And I did on this chart. But blue-green for me should be like its whole section, because maybe I should paint that. Yeah, let's make a, nope, not this one. Let's add in, well, maybe we do it by the blue-greens. that's gonna look awkward. Let's do it over here. Oh no! Page is wet. We're gonna... I find blue-green to have a huge amount of diversity in it, and I'm sure that's the same for all the colors, but it's just like when I was looking at colored pencils and trying to get the right colored pencil, I could never decide if I liked the one that was a little more blue or a little more green, and there's a lot of options. So if I add, okay, so what do I want to add? Do I want to add the complementary color to get the shade and tone? So shade is black, tone is gray. I could like just add gray. I do have white and black, that would make gray. Okay. I feel like I need to clean off my palette first. Or get another palette. What time is it? 7:47. We've gone a lot longer than I was planning. I haven't got that much done. Because as my husband says, I have the gift of the gab, which means I can talk for a really long time. Which it makes, I mean, it's perfect for these live streams. Or that is the requirement. I guess I could be quiet, but some people do. I think we'll go another 15 minutes, and then whatever we've gotten done is whatever we've gotten done. Katie, I don't know if you're still here, but I'd love to. Sorry, multitasking, packing for my trip. Ooh, wait, we talked about your trip. Wait, where are you going? To answer your question, I love a rainbow. Okay, so that's interesting. You don't want to paint a rainbow, but you do love rainbows. And that might be that you are a much more experienced artist than me. I mean, I've made art my whole life, but I didn't take it seriously until about 4 years ago. And as much as you use color when you're making clothes, you're not making the color. Well, I guess I was dyeing clothes. Were you going on your trip, Katie? I'm sorry if you told me already and I forgot. I apologize. I like looking at color wheels, but I do find them frustrating too. Here's a funny American language thing. You guys use the terms blue, green, etc. as if they're colors. We don't do that. Oh, okay. So what is the distinction? What do you do? Like, how would you, so like, if we point to yellow, green right here, New South Wales, right? So Katie says, I'm going to New South Wales, a workshop on creativity to make art on the road. Ooh, fun in Sydney. I'm sure that there are a million amazing places to go in Australia. And you've got me interested in Melbourne for sure. But Sydney Opera House has always like been on my bucket list. And like, it gets pretty like cloudy with no sun. We've had like a lot of sun lately, but it gets really cloudy with no sun for like a while. And this time of year, and I've always thought we could just go to the other side of the world, South America, Australia, New Zealand, and go hang out where you guys are in a completely different season from us. Okay, we're going to try mixing the yellow that has already been a little sullied. I'm going to use the one that I did here. This was shade, but I'm going to do this as shade. So this is going to be the darkest because that's what I was supposed to do, but I just forgot to do it. And so I did it backwards, but we're going to do the mixing with the gray for this. I think we're only going to need a little bit, little tiny bit. Where can I mix this? Oh, we'll do it right here. Ugh. I don't like that at all. Maybe we need more yellow. Okay, now that just looks like yellow. Let's see if I put it down on the paper. I mean, it just looks like looks like a more opaque yellow. Nope, now that just looks like, I'm not getting anywhere. Okay, we'll just sit next to the yellow until I finally keep, okay, that looks right. Okay. That's unpleasant. Yes, come visit you. I'd love to. I guess you'd name the color itself teal, aqua, turquoise, etc. Okay, so if this was your color wheel, it would not say yellow green. It would say, what would you call that? Would you call that teal? Aqua? I mean, we have those words as well. It's just, yeah, you're right though. Like Crayola crayons growing up, I had a blue-green crayon. It was my favorite, or one of my favorites. Yellow, orange. This poor yellow has been contaminated. Oh, I think I'm putting way too much gray. Yeah, I'm way too heavy-handed with that. This is such a good exercise. I know that when I did a lot of color studies before, like it just helps you be much more precise. Normally I love these like toned colors, but I am not liking it. I think I'd like it better if I just like maybe put the purple in. I think I'm not loving the whole gray thing. So maybe on this one, which is obviously not going to get done today, maybe I'll do that. So like I originally was like, oh, okay, so live stream, should do it like an hour, right? Like an hour. I edit videos and get it down to maybe 5 minutes, right? And a lot of times people will not even watch the whole thing. I know, because I can look into the report and it's like only like, I mean, granted, a lot of people will click on a video and then decide it's not for them. So like that affects how much of a video is told, how much of a video is watched. But like usually by the end of your video, most people have dropped off. And I don't know if that's like how I edit, if my videos aren't good, I don't know, because I can't see other people's metrics, so I can't really compare. But I can compare a 20-minute video to a 5-minute video, and it really depends on the content of the video, how long people stay in. But 5 minutes seems to be too long for some people, and 20 minutes seems too long for some people. So the fact that, so I was like, okay, an hour for live streaming seems about reasonable. Oh my gosh, I've been actually watching live streams. I even got on Twitch because if you want to learn how to live stream and you're watching YouTube or reading any forums, they're mostly talking about Twitch. Like that's usually where live streams are done. So I went over to Twitch and I like checked out what was going on over there. People are on for hours. There was somebody that did like a 5-hour live stream. I'm like, that is amazing. That's amazing. Like it's such a different beast from an edited video, and I'm not at all familiar with what the difference is. Oh no. I came over here and I've now muddied my gray area. Now that actually looks like a color I'd wear or paint with. I don't know why I would ever use that. Like I do not like it. It looks much better. They're much darker on the iPad version, of the digital version, I should say. Okay, red orange. So now we need very, very little yellow. Mostly, oh wait, let's use that. Where'd it go? Let's clean up a little bit here and see if it appears. There it is. Oh, I already have it on the palette. We're good. Might still be wet. Let's clean up this orange. How far, I don't know if you're still there, Katie, but how far is Melbourne from Sydney? Are you gonna fly or are you gonna drive? There's no water in that. Okay. This is definitely a color I would, well, I don't know if I'd wear it, but I'd think about wearing it. Actually, I have shirts this color. They're mostly like undershirts. I just tend to, like anything I'm wearing, any sweater I'm wearing, I don't ever want it to touch my skin because then you have to wash it more often. And if it's wool, it will be scratchy, and washing wool frequently is a very challenging chore. Oh, crap. That doesn't belong there. Do you guys consider crap to be a bad word? I hope not. I'm sorry to any parents who are listening with their kids. Write in a comment if you consider that a bad word. 'Cause I personally wouldn't, but like I don't know how other people feel about it. Like I think my grandma didn't like the word, but she was born in 1918. And she didn't like a lot of things that I didn't really understand why it was a problem. We had a lot of different opinions on things. So red orange. We're gonna add orange to this red orange before we put it down. Ooh, I love that. Here's the muddy colors I like. That's beautiful. I don't think I could wear that. That's a little rich for me, probably. Oh, your little camper van. Oh my gosh, you're driving it? That's awesome. So you're packing up a whole van. I love that. I love that. My phone just lit up. I think it thinks that I'm talking to Siri. I'd love to be able to carry my kitchen with me and my bathroom because I use both very frequently. Food allergies and then like general hypermobility, bladder stuff. Purple, red. I think we need more red. What did I do with it now? I keep flipping them over and I can't see them. How many trips have you taken with your camper van? It's new, right? I think I remember you posting photos of it to Patreon. I think it was at a time that I wasn't on Patreon, but I would see it sometimes in emails, which, by the way, I'm not great at reading emails. So I can be hard to get a hold of, and I'm not proud of it. Like it's not a flex. It's actually something I wish I could change and be better about. I used to think driving 10 hours would be impossible, but I got a procedure done on my neck to decrease craniosacral instability. And I think I could totally do a 10-hour drive as long as I took a lot of breaks since I had that procedure. But that actually sounds like a lot of fun. Is it a solo trip? He's walking around outside a lot.
Hi, come.
Taya. Go for a walk? I'll go wake her up. My son wants to take the dog for a walk. Come on, let's go. Let's go. You go for a walk? Let's go. Come on. You go for a walk? Come on, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you.
Huh? Go.
Red purple. I want it to be a little more red and blue. Is that right? I think that looks good. That looks exactly the same as the red by itself. Did I accidentally add blue and not realize it? I don't remember. Katie says, yes, it's been in the shop getting worked on for the last 2 weeks. If you come to Australia, you can borrow it. Oh, that's really sweet. Wow. That is a lot of faith. That's a lot of faith in me. And my driving abilities. I've had it nearly a year. I've only done one major trip to South Australia last March. Need to do more. Yeah, it's a solo trip. Always with me. Meaning you only travel alone? Is that by choice or your partner's not into travel? Or friends aren't interested in the places that you're interested in? Or you do not like traveling with people? I did my first solo trip of my life this last November. I had never done it, and with my health being up and down, but being on up, like we're on an up, I was like, I better do this solo trip while I have the capacity to do so. Because travel's really hard for me with all the food allergies. I have to bring all my food, and I have to bring a lot of medications and a lot of like apparatuses, like heat pads and all kinds of stuff. But I can do it. It's hard, but I can do it. So I wanted to make sure that I did it, and I do want to make a video about it. A lot of people like really congratulated me on traveling solo. Like a lot of I met a lot of women. I didn't tell too many men that I was like solo traveling. Like I didn't like put that information on blast. Live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Why did I suddenly get that message? Did I say something? What? You're going to a workshop with Elizabeth Gilbreth? What? Are you kidding me? One of my favorite books is by her. The Signature of All Things. Me and my husband's favorite books. Katie says the workshop's being done by Elizabeth Gilbreth, which I hope will be interesting. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Well, that's not what you wrote, but I think that's what you mean. But I am more interested in hearing her TED Talk on inspiration in her book, Big Magic. I still haven't read Big Magic. I've heard a lot of people talk about the concepts in there, which sound amazing. And I've heard a little bit about it, and it sounds super cool. And I hope, I can't, how, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That is so cool that you are going to go to a workshop with her. That's incredible. Like, I would love to go to a workshop with her. Workshops are tricky for me with my food allergies. Like, I need like a personal chef to go with me, or I need to have all of my food packed. I have like this little thing I can cook food with now that's a battery operated, and so that's a little bit better. But it'd still be annoying at a conference to like have to leave and go to my room and eat when everybody else is like having a meal together. I guess I could bring that thing down, but then that draws a lot of attention and you have to do a lot of explaining, which can really kill the vibe when you're explaining for the 5th time that no, you can't eat chocolate or the bread. And yes, people can say things like, oh, I would die if I couldn't have chocolate. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, I guess that is an option for me, but like, do we have to talk about that? Like, I don't know. It's one person saying it once, it's kind of like stressful, but people saying it over and over. Like, I'd rather, I don't want to be eating my weird food in front of people. Also, people always think I'm vegan because I have locks. And I'll be sitting there eating a big steak and they're like, I thought you were vegan. Nope, never said I was vegan. I eat the foods I'm not allergic to, and that steak's not one of them. I can eat steak. Yeah, my partner did all his traveling in his youth, he says. Oh, this is what Katie's saying. Sorry, I'm not saying this. Did all his in his youth. I think I do prefer to travel alone, as I like to stop and make art and drive at night, etc. I wouldn't mind traveling in tandem with friends. Yeah. Wow. He did all his traveling in his youth. Good for him. Glad he got out. I could see one of my sons saying that. I don't know which one, but like we did, like it was my goal to like get them out and travel with them a lot. And, you know, teenagers really don't want to travel with their parents. I don't know if you know, any of you have teenagers that are less than enthusiastic, and like grown adult children also may or may not want to travel with their parents. Blue, purple. So we're doing the same thing here. Well, I'm so happy for you, Katie. I'm so happy that you've got yourself what sounds like an amazing tool, and you are using it to like its absolute best purpose, right? Like going to see Elizabeth Gilbreth talk sounds like a dream. I saw, when I was pregnant with my son, my younger son, I saw, what is her name? Jane Goodall. I saw her speak twice. She just happened to come to Southern California twice. And that was just such a treat. And I feel like they're the same caliber as like really impressive people. Katie says, it's a 2-day thing too. So glad you're into her too. Like, are you surprised? I feel like we're into like a lot of the same stuff. Like I mean, I don't know who else is here on the live stream just lurking, because I can't see my numbers. So like there could be 100 people watching or 0. Obviously not 0 because you're commenting, Katie. So, but like, I don't have the information. And, but I was still like, oh, do I want to talk about near-death experiences? Just because some people find that very polarizing. I find it fascinating. I don't know if it's true or not, but wow. Like, you've done something incredible that would be really hard to orchestrate and come back and you're going to tell about it. And like, the amount of time some of these people are clinically, people always say unalived. They don't say the actual word. Am I not supposed to say it? Will I get, I'm not monetized, but like, would I get demonetized? I don't know. Anyways, people, let me clear this. Let me clear off something here so we can just like get a nice clear blue. Anyways, I find them absolutely fascinating. I have a lot of special interests, and that is one of them. Like, what happens I think it's better to spend most of your time grounded and in this world and experiencing this world, because I'm here and that is what I'm supposed to be experiencing. But the concept of like alternate universes or alternate dimensions, different ways of experiencing things is fascinating to me. I mean, I loved anthropology. That was my major in college. I was a double major. It was one of my majors. And I love looking at different cultures, seeing how they do things differently. It just fascinates me. So, anyways, other people in this chat might not want me to talk about other dimensions or near-death experiences. But I didn't think you'd be one of them. I didn't think you'd mind. We seem to be on the same page about a lot of stuff. Except maybe green. I don't think I have a strong opinion about green yet. I might develop one as I paint more. I would say I haven't had a lot of luck with it. Oh, it doesn't look like I added anything. What's happening here? It looks too gray. But if I don't add enough gray, it just doesn't look any different. I'm confused. Katie says, 2 of us right now. Sorry to dominate. It's the Katie and Heather catch up. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't know if I'd be bored. I'd probably just be like very quiet and fixated on my paints. Because the one of the reasons I started doing live streams is like I have so much trouble finding the time to edit. And then I'm not making art because I'm spending too much time editing. And I was like, what if I just like straight up record what I'm doing? And this is what I would want to be doing anyways. Like I would be doing this alone. I'd probably be more efficient. I would have got through more if it wasn't Katie and Heather Ketchup. But I'm definitely having fun. I hope you are too. And I hope that anybody who's still here is having fun too. Blue, green. So I could technically use the turquoise. Okay, Katie. I feel like turquoise is its own color. I feel like you know how when you do the, I'm only talking to you, Katie. Sorry, anybody out there that is willing to comment, I would love to hear your feedback. But specifically, Katie, because in Australia, you guys name your colors, right? But like, would you say that turquoise is kind of like, okay, so if you didn't do the standard color wheel and you did the yellow, magenta, cyan, I don't remember what K is for. Is that black? But the YMCK is like you're mixing with magenta. You're not using red. And cyan. Is this cyan? Is that... I've looked at pictures of cyan. And I feel like it seems pretty close to turquoise. So I'm like kind of considering blue-green as my cyan because they say cyan is its own color. You can't say it's a blue-green because it's not. It's cyan. So I'm like tempted to put it in right here, but I think that wouldn't make sense after having mixed it. I'll just put it in this one. But what do you think? Do you think that it's, if we could fairly call it similar to cyan? Does anybody have an opinion on that? Does anybody know what cyan looks like? Put a link. Or we can't put links, huh? We can't put links in YouTube because people put links for things that are not benign. Like, what is cyan? What does cyan actually look like? People put other things that you can use your imagination. People have to go and ruin it for us. I'm glad you love these topics too, Katie. Sorry, I read that and then just kept on my my tangent about turquoise. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping other people enjoy listening to me ramble. It's something I'm good at, rambling. I'd say that it might be one of my greatest strengths. And I think it's better to look at it like that, because sometimes I feel kind of bad about it. Like, I can really talk for a long time. And I know my partner appreciates that about me, but not everyone does. Some people get tired. I get tired too, to be honest. Like, when we're done here, I'm going to go read a book and I'm going to drink some water. And I probably won't be willing to talk to anybody else for a while. Ooh, we're almost done with tone. And then all we have left is shade. And I think it's time for me to get off there, though. I think it's time to be done. So we're going to just do that one and then we're done. So Katie, before I go, how long are you in on your trip for? Like, how many days are you going to be in Sydney? And then are you going to try to drive it all in one day? Yellow green. So we need a lot of yellow or this is not going to work. More yellow. And yellow green, and we're done. Well, we haven't done the middle, but this took significantly longer than I thought it would. Katie says, yes, now you're speaking my language. This is why I get frustrated by the color wheel, as it's wrong. Yes, the closest to cyan is turquoise. Oh, okay. I don't know if I read that somewhere or if just when people were describing it, it kind of sounded like turquoise. Like, it's kind of like a lighter color. And the funny thing is like, I don't know if I've ever seen a watercolor paint that's cyan, ever. I don't think I've ever seen, I might have seen a colored pencil. I'm so sorry. I keep hitting the table, guys. I don't think I've ever seen a colored pencil that's called cyan. I don't think I've ever seen, yeah, any medium. Yeah, the color wheel. Yes. Okay. I want to talk more about this. I don't know if you're going to be at my next live stream because you might be traveling. But I would love to talk more about the color wheel because, yeah, I think it's scientifically incredibly inaccurate and I would love to see a real one. And in fact, because I know a lot of color theory from clothes and fashion, and that I feel like is wildly inaccurate. And I'm like, why? Why aren't we using like actual legit color theory for, I mean, I know it's kind of subjective in some ways, but like, why aren't we using this for teaching women about like makeup or, you know, how to pick your best colors for yourself? Like, I still don't know what my best colors are. And I study this stuff all the time. And I was like on the bandwagon of like what your colors are before it became popular again. So I think I was like looking into it. I don't know. My kids were little and they are like 18 and 25 now. So it was a long time ago. We had Pinterest. So it was that recent. Maybe we didn't have Pinterest. How old's Pinterest? All this tech is now getting old. Not old, but like it's not its infancy anymore. Like YouTube's been around a long time. I'm just in Sydney over the weekend, taking 2 to 3 days to drive up and 5V on the way back. Going via the beautiful coast. Oh, that's cool. I wish it was longer, but the repair tool took too long. 10 days altogether. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you probably won't be at the next couple live streams. I'll miss you. I'll miss that you comment. I miss catching up. We'll have to meet up some other way online somehow. Because no, I don't think I'm going to Australia anytime soon. I don't think you're coming here. But yeah. Anyways, thank you all who have joined me for this very tangenty, didn't get very much done color wheel. I mean, actually, I'm being a little hard on myself. I forgot we did color swatching too. And we talked about the color wheel. But yeah, expect more of this because that's is how I roll. This is how I do things. So I hope you guys like this, and I'll see you guys. Well, let me read the last comment. Look up Scott Naismith. He's amazing. You know what's funny is like, oh, I can screenshot this. I was gonna say, how am I gonna hold on to this? No, the color theory, Katie says, no, the color theory stuff is so stupid. Has anyone ever mixed a good purple from blue and red? No. Yeah, exactly. Don't get me started, right? Because it's like, you're going to use that color that doesn't actually exist, magenta, to make it. I mean, I actually like the purple that comes from blue and red because I like a muted color. But if you don't like muted colors, no, you're not making a good one. It looks muddy, which is fine for me. But like for other people, it's not aspirational. Yeah, don't get you started. Well, you know, maybe we can do a live stream together sometime, and we can get into the nitty-gritty, and you can tell me what you know, because oops, sorry, I just kicked my trash can. I would love to hear more from a more experienced artist on their opinions on this, because yeah, I actually learned it from John Muir Laws, the whole magenta cyan thing. He's like, my dyslexic brain cannot handle trying to figure out cool colors versus warm colors. And I think his dyslexic brain can't handle it because it's not scientifically accurate. I think that's what he's really saying. Because dyslexia isn't necessarily just I can't read. It really means that your brain works differently. So I have dyslexia, so I would know. And yeah, I don't get it either. I'm like, cool versus warm. Like I don't think anybody really knows what that means. I really don't think anybody knows what cool versus warm means. Katie says, I'd love to come there. Thanks, Heather. That was fun. Rebuilt my website while we chatted. Sorry, I'll miss the next one. It's okay. I'll miss you, but I am excited to hear about your trip when you get back. So anyways, thanks to you guys. I'm going to go have some dinner and go not talk.